Welcome to Life List, a birding podcast.
Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Life List, a birding podcast. I am George Armistead here with Alvaro Jaramillo. Alvaro, what's going on?
I'm here again in Antarctica, still, because it's a long trip. So let's just look out the window, George.
Yeah.
I describe this. It's if you've seen snow and you live, let's say you live in the north, you're a Canadian or Minnesota, and you've seen a bunch of snow. Think about everything, like mountains, huge mountains covered in what looks like, let's say, 100 feet of snow, something like that. It's insane. And there's icebergs, and there's snow petrels.
There's a lot of snow petrels. Of snow petrels. Yeah, no, it's a crazy scene. We're cruising out of Nico Harbor here, and we're heading back towards the west side of the Antarctic Peninsula. It's a lot of white, snow and ice-covered mountains. A lot of glaciers glowing, with cracks and crevices that are bright blue. And a lot of icebergs around that the captain is nimbly navigating around.
And sometimes you hit one, and it kind of, it actually sort of shakes the ship a little bit, and it kind of vibrates.
Yeah.
And I think they call those growlers.
Growlers.
They growl through, that whole...
Yeah.
But it's good.
We've learned about a lot of different ice, from growlers to bergy bits to pancake ice to fast ice to tabular bergs, a lot of different kinds of ice.
And the other thing is that you've been to the Rockies in the north, and you've seen a mountain, kind of snow peak, and then a glacier flowing through the middle of it. Here you can't tell where the glacier is and where just the snow and everything starts. It's just all white. So sometimes you'll see like bits of the mountain are cracked in a way that suggests like, okay, that's actually a glacier and it's flowing and it's cracking. But there's other places that look like thick snow. And you think, well, why is that not a glacier? Those questions kind of come up in understanding how all this works. But it's just huge amounts of snow versus flowing ice, which is a glacier. And also, we get to have glacial ice in our drinks.
Yes.
Which is kind of nice.
Yes.
It's very clear ice.
Our friend Whitney just taught the bartender how to make a Negroni, so she had herself a glacial Negroni, which I have to say sounds rather tasty. I might have to get one for myself a little later on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, it's the noise of the, just sort of the sounds of being here in a quiet environment. We went out in Zodiacs and shut the engines off, and you can sort of hear cracking and moving and wind, yet it's so beautiful that you cannot imagine this exists. You cannot imagine.
I was talking to my wife, Kristen, earlier, and she was saying, when I tell people that you're in Antarctica right now, they act like they do a double take. Like at first they're like, oh yeah, he's in Antarctica. And then they're like, what? Like, what? Antarctica?
Yeah.
It's like, I think it is one of these places, maybe the only place really, where you tell people you're going there and they look at you like you're going to a different planet.
Right. Or they go, yeah, right, come on.
Right, like nobody goes there.
What part of Jersey are you going to this week? Come on. You're not going to Antarctica. George.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah. No, they don't believe, and it's, and I have to say that being here also, it's difficult to describe because it's pretty surreal looking. It does look like something. A lot of it looks like it's out of a sci-fi film. Some crazy sci-fi film.
So George, if the one thing you would never do, given this ice-scape, is go for a swim around here.
Yeah, you would think. Yeah,
but there's people who are insane.
Yeah,
insane.
Yeah,
and perhaps some of you have heard of the polar plunge. It happened today. And since we needed to record it, we needed to be, completely, 100%. We did not do it ourselves, but we did watch people doing this.
My God.
And I was worried that some of these people's tickers were going to go,
Did you see the nurse had the defibrillator out right by the door just in case?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a shock to the system. Like
shock. There, you can see it on the faces. They jumped with big smile for the camera, and then they get in the water. They're like, "Oh my God!" They're like just like racing to get out of there. And
so we watched. I think it was 36 people today of our gang here on board, and they all descended the gangway, got onto this little platform pretty much at water level there, and then leaped into the 39 degree, 40 degree water, something like that.
It was like 2 Celsius.
2 Celsius. Yeah. And then they were attached to a harness and a rope so that they, should anything have gone awry, they could have been retrieved quickly. Right. And there was some of our team were nearby.
Hey, I got to say, I was really worried. Peter Katzner was on there, and he's like a world big lister, and he's
number one on eBird,
number one, and I was thinking like, this better not be where the list ends, because that'd be awful, but what a way to go,
true.
He did fine.
Oh, he was aces. Yeah, he had no problem.
No problem. He came out, and more lifers to see.
Yeah, my favorite one I think was the girl that jumped in. And they were taking photos. The staff photographer was taking photos of everybody, and he missed her picture. Mm-hmm. And so he said, "No, we need you to do it again if you want the picture." And she did it again, and so he could get the picture. But she had to do it twice, man. Twice.
And her face was like, no.
When she got back on the platform, the expression on her face was like, "You've got to be kidding me! I got to do this again." Mm-hmm. And I have to admit, I was dying for the photographer to be like, "Sorry, one more time." I was dying. I was really hoping he would make that joke, but did not. Would not have gone over well. I don't think it would have been appreciated.
Yeah, I got to say that I contemplated doing it. I actually brought my little swimming trunks.
Oh, wow. You were
not a Speedo. Not a Speedo.
Well, that's good. And thank you on behalf of the rest of the ship.
Regular one.
Yeah.
Big old shorts. and I thought, that'd be cool, whatever. But I thought, it might be a deception island where the water is a little warmer because it's a volcanic vent. Because that's what I was thinking might be happening. And when it was just out in the middle of nowhere, like jumping off the back of the ship, I said, I don't know. And I think one always has to keep something for the next trip, right?
That's right.
Something.
I'm telling myself the same thing. Also, there's a little piece in the back of my brain that was like, what if there's orcas or a leopard seal that just grabs me by the ankle and decides to
cuts that cord between you and
what if he did that, these guys are strong and everything.
What a way to go.
Yeah, that's true.
What a way to go.
Be a heck of a story for everybody else, I suppose. Yeah.
Remember, we have rules with sharks. You punch their nose. But orcas, what do you do?
Yeah. I guess when you punch the shark, it affects their ampullae of Lorenzini?
That's right. Yeah. That it stimulates the ampullae of Lorenzini. Mm-hmm. Everybody can Google that.
Yeah.
And it shocks them, and they leave. But an orca, what are you going to do? Other than put a stick in its mouth, kind of like in the cartoon, so it can't close, That's the only thing I can think of. You're done.
No, that's a tricky one. It's a real tricky one.
And leopard seals, they're it's like a lizard's head on a mammal, and like a really mean lizard. Kind of don't like those things.
Yeah, they're
I've not seen one yet.
I like seeing them from a distance, not attached to my ankle while I'm doing a polar plunge.
That'd be so. Yeah, if you come here, contemplate all the variables of doing the polar plunge before you do them.
Definitely don't listen to us.
Bring a good outfit because they're taking pictures.
Yeah, there were some pretty good outfits.
I know.
There's
one without an outfit.
That's true. There was it was a birthday suit. It was a birthday suit.
That's right.
Yeah.
That suit. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a birthday suit. Yeah. The polar plunge was pretty ridiculous. But I'm curious, Al, to get your take on the Zodiac cruise we did here in Nico Harbor in the afternoon. Now, my understanding is that on your pelagic trips in California, you see a lot of humpback whales.
Yes.
And today we saw a good number overall throughout the day, actually. We saw quite a few pods, kind of gently puffing away at the surface as we rolled down the Gerlache Strait here before we got to Nico Harbor. And even once we got here, Nico Harbor, on our Zodiac cruise, we had some nice sightings. But you were saying this is like, it's almost like seeing a different animal, seeing it here.
Yeah. I couldn't believe it. So there's ice everywhere. The place has no waves. It's tamped down because there's no wind today. But also it's a harbor, kind of bay, and then there's ice that's also tamping down the movement of the water. So the last thing you're going to expect is a whale. It's going to be sitting there in the little patches of open water.
Between all the bergs.
Between all the bergs and stuff, and it's kind of moving around. And they were there, but their behavior was totally different. Like, they weren't just like moving around, and they would come up to breathe on the surface and just sit there like logs, and just which it's called logging, right?
Yeah.
And they just would breathe, and every so often you get the humpback, the real bend in the body, and and the tails never came up because I don't think it was that deep.
No.
Right, the flukes. So they would dive down, and probably there's like patches of krill down here that they're eating right under the ice, and they were just sort of feasting on that, and they would come up, and they're just so quiet and hanging out, and you could get up there on the Zodiac, like a manatee or something, like some kind of. They were not like whales,
No, yeah, we ended up close to two animals. We didn't know they were there at first. We'd seen one other one where we kind of snuck up and got fairly close to it, but we were looking at other stuff. We were looking at a crab-eater seal. And while we were looking at this crab-eater seal, all of a sudden we hear this,
right?
this big blow, and then we realized there was two animals, and they were close by, and they must have, I don't know, just come from a short ways away, and they were doing the same thing. The logging you're talking about, just they started floating at the surface and just blowing, and we shut off our Zodiac engine and we all just kind of listened, and pretty magical scene.
Yeah, it's neat, and krill too. I was thinking about krill in that these animals are right next to shore here eating krill. And crab eaters are krill eaters, actually, more than,
Yeah, they don't really eat crabs.
No,
yeah.
it's a name, right?
Yeah.
But they have these funny teeth, and they use them actually to sort of, like filters.
Yeah.
Krill. And there are 4 kinds of krill here. And they vary in size. And these things are little shrimp. They're actually called euphasids, and the euphacid shrimp And California, we have krill, but krill tends to be like, you'll see it 10 miles offshore, 20 miles offshore, you'll get these patches of krill that happen. And here it's right next to shore. So you can have penguins, we just hit a berg there.
Hit one of those growlers, yeah.
Hit one of those
it.
growlers, boom, like a little earthquake. And that also just sort of piqued my attention, that it's like, you think krill is krill, whatever, it has a certain way of being, but it doesn't. It's different in California, it's different here, and I'm sure that where you live, you probably don't have krill at all, because it's too warm.
No.
Right? It's like a cold water set of creatures, but here it's the basis for everything, it seems, really is, isn't it? Yeah, I was told today by one of the biologists that works for the expedition that leopard seals eat, penguins when the penguins are here. But when the penguins leave, they eat krill.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
I was like, wow.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. And that was news to me. And so apparently, like, much of the year, that's what they do, is eat krill. The first time I ever saw krill, actually, I may have told you this, was in the Galapagos cruises, and there was I've seen this twice there, and it was on the west side of the archipelago where it is very cold water.
Yeah,
and there was huge. I actually thought that some other ship had come through and polluted the water, because there was just these like sort of reddish,
right,
big bands of reddish going through the water, and I asked our local guide, I'm like, what is that? Like, somebody has made a mess here, And he was like, that's krill. Illegal. Yeah, I was like, that can't be legal. And he was like, that's krill.
That's krill.
And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So I want to know too, George, like, how come we don't have T-shirts that say "License to Krill"?
Of course, you would ask
Krill 'em all.
Krill 'em all. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like you're onto something here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, with a little seabird there and goes krill 'em all.
Don't krill the messenger. I don't know.
Don't krill the messenger. Yeah. Oh boy, send us your krill shirt suggestions.
Yeah,
everybody. We could get
This is an idea with legs. I like it.
Yeah. Like, I think 10 legs, if I remember right.
To be specific.
Specific.
Yeah.
Yeah. So krill, but magical and mysterious. It was that I contemplated today, as you did, the snow petrel.
Yes.
And there's no petrel like snow petrel, of course.
You're inspiring me to sing, but I'll spare everybody that for now. Yeah.
But this thing is, if you took a ivory gull and made it fly real good.
Yeah.
Just like a petrel does.
Yeah.
It's an all-white petrel that lives in the snow. And it truly does live in the snow.
It's like if you took an ivory gull and a pterodroma petrel and squished them together. This might be kind of what you end up with.
Yeah. I don't know that they have legs, but I guess some people saw them land, which is interesting.
I saw one go behind a berg and not come out the other side. And I was like, oh my God, it landed on this berg. And there was one of the Zodiac groups was right there. And I saw them all lift their cameras. And I was like, oh no. They're getting amazing photos of snow petrel on an iceberg. That's was too much to bear.
And what confused me is that I thought, well, surely snow petrel cannot nest on ice. But again, one of the biologists says, they usually don't, but they can. And I thought, how? Like, how, especially if it's a berg, like an iceberg, these things move. They flip. How do you choose a piece of ice that's going to be static for the number of months you need to nest in? Or are they it's like a crapshoot? Suddenly I need to know way more about snow petrel. The only thing that makes sense about them being really sort of tied to snow is that they're white. Like, most of these birds that are super white are tied to snow. And petrels are marine. But these guys, you don't tend to see much in the middle of the ocean. They're usually near land or near ice or land that has ice, And I thought, what a weird petrel. And in fact, if you look at the wings, did you notice that they're they're a little rounded?
Yeah.
They're sort of kind of not petrelly in the way that you expect.
Yeah, not as much like the southern fulmars we've been seeing everywhere, or the pterodromas, which cover so much more range. Or they're a little sort of they're a little broader,
right? A little more rounded tipped, as if they don't necessarily need them to be hanging out way out in the middle of the ocean, riding the waves. It's as if their entire world is living near the ice, and they just shift a little north or south with the ice, is my guess. And I don't know that, I have to look them up, but that many people have studied them. It's like an odd It's not, and I wouldn't think it's an easy bird to study.
Can't be. No, I mean, especially, who comes here in the winter, like to the edge of the pack ice,
Right.
to study some of these birds like Antarctic petrel or snow petrel,
Right.
and these seals too, probably. That's
Right.
That's where they would be then, and there's no daylight, and it's got to be extremely difficult conditions.
And we were thinking, I think yesterday that everything here migrates. They have to leave because all of this is just frozen. There's nothing here for anything to eat. So the shags, the cormorants, Antarctic shags, where do they go? Like, they don't go to South America. They don't. So are they just at the edge of the ice too, and nobody sort of sees them because nobody's here in the middle of winter? Where do the Antarctic terns do? Some of them, a few of them go to South Africa. Or do they just hang out at the ice edge? It's amazing to me how much we don't know. And then this mystery that we've been kind of thinking about, this is like the lesser and greater snow petrels.
The two types, yeah.
The two types. There's like a bigger one and a little one, a smaller one. And what, we look at the books and they sort of say, greater snow petrel sort of occurs in certain part in the other side of Antarctica, but there's a few close to here, and they may hybridize, and there's all this sort of uncertainty. And it seems to us that the ones we saw in South Georgia were small, and the ones we're seeing here are bigger. So what is going on exactly? Are these great? What are we seeing? And
Probably nobody knows. I'm guessing. Maybe somebody knows. There are certainly some great research stations down here, and we're not that far from Palmer. And there's a bunch of biologists and scientists. But is anybody really looking critically at some of these seabirds? I would love to know, but I sort of, there's no way you could answer all the questions we're asking.
No, because we ask such good questions. That's why.
that were true. But yeah, no, it was, we kind of started talking about these two birds before we really got into their zone even. And we were looking at the ones that we saw first on South Georgia, and they really they do seem more delicate, and they've got like a little tiny, black bill. And these ones, once we got to a little farther south, then we started to see these guys that did seem like they were thicker necked, maybe a bigger bill,
right,
and a much heavier bill. There's a giant petrel. I thought it was a skua.
And they there's an issue with birds that are white. Typically, you don't have features, right? You just have white.
Yeah.
And so to even think about the fact that Iceland gull, the white ones, and glaucous gull are essentially the same. And in some of the immature plumages, when they're whitish, second-year birds or whatever, they really are about the same. Little build difference in pattern, and it's all structure, right? It's all structure. And apparently they're not even that closely related, Iceland and, glaucus. But if I just sort of said to you out of the blue, right, like, how about if there are two glaucus gull species? I'm just making this up. One of them's a little smaller, one's a little bigger, and they're isolated, whatever. You'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
What's the difference? Size, structure. And it'd be really difficult as a field observer to sort of
sort through that.
Yeah. Right? So imagine that kind of level of a scene of, a little smaller, a little bigger, whatever, here, where very few people kind of get to go, and very few people are really keen on observing some of these details. So there could be something that's just completely missed, and maybe these graders are actually more common than we think. Whatever, it's going to be interesting to look at all the photos afterwards and see if we can see these bill size differences in our images. And it's exciting just to have questions,
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if we answer them or if we're wrong or right or whatever. It's just like we have these questions that are sort of in our brains. That I think that's part of what birding can be, right?
It's funny too, for this particular species, is that I came here expecting that I would see lesser snow petrels and quite a few of them. And I think I'm going to go home with better photos and more photos of greater snow petrel. But the species name for greater, right? The subspecies name is confusa, right?
Oh.
So perhaps we're not alone. I suspect in having questions. It seems so. But a great set of birds, right. And
confusa isn't that the guy who's like.
He's got all the proverbs.
All the proverbs, right? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's like fortune cookies.
Yeah,
different guy.
Very, very wise, Confusa.
Really? Oh,
very wise. Yes.
Because Confusa sounds like the person might not be that wise, right? Feels confused.
You would think, given the name.
Yeah, maybe I'm confused. Yes, I think I am.
Yeah. Well, one of the things also that I'm kind of interested to do is between arriving here to the Antarctic Peninsula and leaving South Georgia, we saw something crazy. We saw the biggest iceberg known in the world.
Yeah,
A76A.
Right. I think it's named by the Canadians, right?
Is that right?
A76A.
See, I thought of 76. I was trying to make it a Philadelphia thing.
Oh, it's a Canadian Philadelphia
connection.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's what it is.
That's it.
I was like, I'm not going to forget this name because it's 76,
Right. And I couldn't remember the name. Now I'll never forget.
Yeah. A76, eh?
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. Well, it is huge. I mean, I think we arrived, and the fun thing was, right, we get to where it is. We knew it was coming up, and we were all sort of anticipating arrival to see this big bird.
And we're in the middle of the ocean, like days from any place.
Yeah,
right.
Like well below the Antarctic convergence, south of South Georgia. What, a day and a half, 2 days, something like that.
Right. No land near anywhere.
Out smack in the middle of nowhere, and we get to where we think it is, and we're socked in with fog and mist, and we can't see anything. We know the berg is like 1 nautical mile away, which is about as close as the captain was comfortable or was safe to get, and we couldn't see it.
Yeah,
and we knew it was there.
And the glaciologist is on the speaker basically saying, right, so here it is, and we can't see it, but he's describing almost like a radio show where you're trying to describe the scene, but you can't see a thing.
Yeah, we're all kind of like, okay.
It's like, wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a bummer, but then, wouldn't you know it, we go to lunch, and it's always a good move. We go to lunch, you get some food, and while we're kind of wrapping up lunch, we get the announcement that the berg is barely coming into view. And we go out and we look, and all of a sudden it just clears right up. Mm-hmm. And then I think we had 4 hours more. We paralleled the edge of this iceberg for about 5 hours. Mm-hmm. It's an 84-mile long, 16-mile wide, 250-meter thick iceberg.
You're mixing your metric and because I was like 120 kilometers by 30 initially.
And then I gave you the meters at the end.
Right. Then you're like, it's like trying to. Yeah, then you messed me up with the meters. I can't translate that into feet.
Oh see, it all makes sense to me, but
I know you're smart.
Well, no, but I don't know how to respond to that.
but the thing is, like, the thing is taller than the Walmart, folks.
Yeah, no, it's way taller. Like the part that was above the water was 75 meters or something like that above the water.
Like that's 1/10 of the actual depth.
Yeah.
Right. So it's huge, and then we had a person on our trip, Catherine, who did calculations on what this means as far as like trying to put it into perspective. She said it's enough water in there to fill all of California 6 feet in depth. All of California, 6 feet in depth.
That's ridiculous.
I know. I mean, when this thing melts, it actually will probably be like a little tiny increment of increase in the ocean that maybe somebody could measure because it's that much water.
Yeah, I mean, it was immense. You couldn't even really process what you're looking at. But I mean, in addition to just how enormous it was, the coolest thing as birders for us was that it's given away a lot of water to the ocean there. It is actively melting, and there's probably some nutrients being released, I imagine, from the. But also, there's just a lot of fresh water hitting the salt water.
And seabirds also don't fly over it, so they go around the thing.
They were stacked all along the edge.
All over the edge.
All along the edge. I mean, sometimes it was dozens, sometimes it was hundreds, and sometimes it was thousands, man. Like those prions, the Antarctic prions, the southern fulmars. It was just, and it was for
mantled albatrosses are our biggest numbers. I mean, the Ebert trip switch was going off, those 40 here, 30 here, whatever,
that was amazing. And they were they were doing a lot of courtship flights, and other times they were just whipping around. I started trying to, and I can't help but note that I just saw a snow petrel go past, and I just saw a southern fulmar go past. Yeah. So, I started thinking like, all right, how many species can I photograph that flying past in front of the world's biggest iceberg? Mm-hmm. And I got to go through my photos and check, but like, it's at least like 6 or 7 or 8. Yeah, there was a lot of pintado petrels, southern fulmars, Antarctic prions were the thing that were in the greatest number. I mean, there were
prions are like a little seabird. They're gray. In fact, we learned the other day that the Robert Cushman Murphy, the big seabird biologist in the Southern Hemisphere back in the 30s and so forth, he realized these birds and blue petrels had a color that made them kind of melt into the water in terms of the colorations, almost like they were camouflaged. And he took back this color and said to the Navy, you should paint your ships this color. And the ships now in the U.S. Navy are prion. They're,
prion gray.
Prion gray is the color that they chose. So it's these gray birds with little black M. They have different bill sizes depending on the species to filter out krill. Again, krill's big deal. And but they're just in droves, and they're smaller than a shearwater, like way smaller, and they're really agile, like
super hard to keep track of. Yeah, they and there's the species that we see here like provide serious identification challenge. Right. Overwhelmingly, we see Antarctic prions, but we did see quite a few slenderbills to start the trip close to the Falklands, and very few fairies. Fairy prion was one of your, I know, was a lifer for you, and it was one of my most pleasing birds to see as well. I saw one really well and photographed it actually right alongside an Antarctic prion, which made it easier to spot. I was like, whoa, that one's different, Mm-hmm. But otherwise, they were few and far between. Maybe we'll see some more going back. But yeah, along the edge of that berg, and one of the things that I think it was Fabrice, the ornithologist on board here, said is that he said that some of the water that was melting off of that berg was creating a ton of fresh water all around the edge of the berg, and that actually was bad for the krill to the point that they were struggling, maybe dying even, and that there was probably a whole bunch of dead krill right along the edge of that berg, which is, we had to remain 1 nautical mile at least away from it, just for safety reasons. But you could see there were thousands of birds along it, and we were along it for about 5 hours. Yeah. It was just an incredible spectacle.
The idea that you're going along a piece of ice for hours and hours nonstop, and it's flat topped. Don't get the idea that this is like, sort of iceberg, like with a point. It's just like a flat,
completely flat on top.
Flat. It's like a mesa.
Otherwise, it's like a wall.
Yeah, you could land an airplane on the thing probably, if it's so flat.
Yeah.
And this, we learned also that even the name of the thing tells you roughly which piece it is, where it broke off, It's from the Larsen A shelf, which is in the Weddell Sea, and that I think they get named Larsen A,
Larsen B, Larsen C.
right, and then
Larsen A and Larsen B, I gather, are mostly gone, right? But Larsen C still has quite a big chunk.
And then as it breaks off, any piece that is bigger than 20 square kilometers gets tracked and gets given a name. Anything smaller than, and you think, wow, 19 square kilometers is a huge piece of ice, but it's not worth tracking because there's so much huge ice down here that
that is crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's wild. 19 square kilometers. It's smaller than that. Doesn't bear attention.
And didn't somebody also say that if you put this into perspective of a state, it was nearing the size of Rhode Island?
That was my understanding, yeah. I would have to take a look. I mean, we should be able to do those calculations, but yeah.
And it's almost the same size as South Georgia Island, right? Which is a huge island.
Yeah.
And the fact that we saw this thing, got to bird it, who gets to bird the biggest iceberg in the world?
For 5 hours.
For 5 hours.
No, that was, I didn't think that, I mean, the day before that, and we'll I guess we're going to talk about our experience in South Georgia later, and we had a pretty spectacular experience leaving there that we can discuss another time, but, that was amazing. And setting that aside for a minute, though, the next day was the day we arrived at the Antarctic Peninsula.
Right. And
that ended up being a really, really surprising day.
Yeah.
Really surprising.
Yeah.
We had 3 days at sea leaving South Georgia. We arrived, here on the third day?
In the afternoon. Right.
Late in the afternoon, having been at sea, for 3 days, basically. And the whole time that we're at sea, we're thinking about kind of the ultimate tube nose that you look for on this trip. It's kind of the one that's named for the continent, the Antarctic petrel, which is in it's in its own genus. It's just kind of a cipher of a bird. It's
Yeah, you asked me at the start, like, which bird do you most want to see here? Because, I've been here before, but I haven't seen everything. You always miss something. And I was like, Antarctic petrel.
Yeah.
And you said, well, there's other really good ones. No, Antarctic petrel.
That's it. That's the one I want.
That's the one. Just seems to be like not common. Like, a lot of people just never see it in the Antarctic.
Unpredictable.
It, I don't know anything about it, except that it's one of the southernmost breeding birds in the world, right? That and the South Polar skua are the southernmost breeding birds in the world, because they go and fly inland in Antarctica to find cliffs where they can nest, inland.
About as inhospitable, a place as you can imagine.
So I was like, I want to see that thing.
Yeah.
So we were looking for it.
We were for 3 days. For 3 days, everybody on this boat had that bird in mind and was out on deck looking. People were giving up hope. There was despair, and finally, the third day we get in here and we get into the Weddell Sea, and we wanted
Antarctic Sound, right?
Yeah, via the Antarctic Sound and the Erebus and Terror, the Gulf of the Erebus and Terror. Those are a couple great. That's a couple great names. The Erebus and Terror. Those named for the two ships. I believe it was a Captain Cook expedition, if I remember correctly.
No. Dude taught us about it, but I didn't listen that much. But he said Erebus, but he was British.
Okay, yeah, I have no idea if I'm
Erebus and Terror.
Yeah, that's probably correct. Right. I trust him more than I trust myself. That's for sure. But we went through those two bodies of water, past. Oh boy, I'm forgetting the name of the island. A couple islands, and we expected it. We were like, okay, then we're gonna the ice.
Graham Land or something.
That's not the one I was thinking
Graham
of.
Cracker Land?
That's what it was. It was Graham Cracker Land.
Graham Cracker
yes,
Land.
It was just past S'mores Island. Yeah.
S'mores Island. It was right up.
Maps made by Alvaro.
Pepperidge Farms Lane.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. No, but we got past those two bodies of water, and the ice charts showed that we were supposed to hit a lot of ice.
Yeah.
And
too much.
Yeah, too much to really do anything.
You can't go anymore.
Yeah, and we got there, and there was no ice, and we just kept going and going and going and going, and all of a sudden we start thinking, man, maybe we could make it to Snow Hill Island.
Yeah,
imagine that. That's Emperor's Nest at the end of that thing. If we could make it anywhere near there, we might have a chance.
But what we're getting this. You were looking outside, okay? You're out there. You're working. I was working inside because we had this, sort of summary of the day and what's going to happen and the plan and whatever. We're all inside. Everybody's in there.
Everybody but about 20 or 30 of us who were playing hooky, and hanging out on the top deck.
And the expedition leader and the whole thing is going on and everything, what we're going to do and whatever. And I had my radio on because I just went walkie-talkie, and I suddenly hear Antarctic petrol, Antarctic petrol, Antarctic petrol, and everybody hears this, and I said to the expedition leader, Antarctic petrol. And I thought that,
that was code for drop everything.
You stop talking right now.
We leave now.
And we leave now. But he kept on talking. And then suddenly it was this awkward moment where I was like, what do we do? And then some people just left, right? And they started going. But fortunately, it was right at the end. So then it was everybody go up, Antarctic petrol, go up, go up, go up.
Yeah.
And it happened.
I was up there, and there was, we were all looking in all directions, and all of a sudden the call goes up. And I always say about this bird, you don't really find them. They find you. Mm-hmm. And it seems that way every time I've seen them. I haven't seen very many, but every time I've seen them, it's because they come in high over the boat, and nobody sees them until they're right over the boat. Mm-hmm. And they're usually close. And it kind of reminds me of looking for a white-tailed tropic bird in North Carolina. What happens is all of a sudden they come in high, and people, we're so trained while seabirding to look at the horizon. Mm-hmm. Look at the horizon, look below the horizon, or just above it.
Right.
These things come in way up high. They're over the boat before you even know it. And usually they check the boat out for a while. Sometimes they'll even follow the boat for a long time. Mm-hmm. We didn't have that experience. So when you got that call on the radio, I thought I saw that the call had gone. I was like, I'm going to just make sure that transmission got through. I ran down the steps, 2 flights of steps. I see people coming up the steps, and I'm like, the word got out? And they're like, yeah, the word got out. Where is it? And I'm like, okay, let's go back up. And we get back up, and I see the birds go over the back deck and make a beeline directly away. And I was like, oh, man.
They're gone.
They're gone. Uh-oh. That's it. But it wasn't it. It wasn't it.
No.
We kept cruising south. We had another pair that came in, did pretty much the same thing. Super quick visit, and some folks saw them, some folks didn't. But then we finally got to Snow Hill Island.
Could I just say something about the Antarctic petrels? First time I'd ever seen them, and the near relative is the pintado, which is this checkered black and white thing.
Super abundant,
white belly, white underwing with a black leading edge, black head, with a really clean cut sort of hood.
One of the most common and one of the most beautiful birds we see on this trip.
And pintado for painted, right? And the description that Steve Howell in his book gives for the Antarctic petrel is like a pintado that's been organized. Because all the white actually flows through the central part of the wing.
Yeah. And
there's no patchiness. It's sort of like little brownish head, actually not black, but brownish.
Yeah.
White belly. The underparts are similar, underwing similar to a pintado, but above, it's like a brownish wing with just a big white stripe down the primaries and secondaries. Unlike the black and white sort of checkerboard thing. And I have to admit, that might be one of the best descriptions.
A very apt description.
Apt, right? Yeah. So anybody could say, if you knew pintado petrel, and I always thought they're going to look like them. They don't.
No.
They don't act
structurally,
like them.
They're similar but different.
Right.
And plumage-wise and behavior-wise.
Right. And that surprise is what is so good about, people want to see lifers. They want to see new things. For me, it's seeing something and going, oh, it's nothing like I expected.
Yeah.
It's not like a pintado. It's not.
Yes.
And like you said, they come in high, whatever. And anyway, I just thought I'd share that sort of observation and Steve Howell's perfect.
I kept watching people the day before during the iceberg, like watching the distance through scopes, trying to spot them. And I thought, they might spot one that way. But the odds are, if there's one around, it's going to show up overhead before anyone sees it. Mm-hmm. Like, it'll find us.
You called it.
Yeah, and that's what happened. And we ended up with at least 3, maybe 4 pairs. It was difficult to tell that day. But they were all way more interested in each other than they were in us, and
we're not that interesting.
We're not that interesting,
right?
And they were displaying. They were doing these display flights. It was wild.
Our listeners know that we're not that interesting.
Yeah, they definitely know that. Yeah, so no, not news to them. But the coolest part was, and I'm not sure how we're doing on time here. We may have some time.
No,
here.
we're fine.
Okay,
We're fine.
Yeah, it's very different here recording in the observation lounge compared to back at the ranch, but yeah, the
ranch.
Yeah, so we've navigated all the way down into the wet LC, much further south than any of us thought we'd have any chance of getting. Right. We actually do get to the edge of Snow Hill Island, and at the southwest end, that's where this emperor colony is, and
nobody sees emperors.
No.
Emperor penguins are the best known penguin. And we know the little babies with the white faces, and you've seen them on TV, and you've seen them dancing and stuff on videos and movies and whatever. But actually, nobody sees
That's what people don't realize. I think a lot of people think if you go to Antarctica, you'll see emperor penguins.
Right.
But the truth is that, it's got to be, I don't know if it's...
Helicopters need to be involved?
Icebreakers and helicopters, typically you need to be on an icebreaker boat that has a helicopter to have a chance. And
that's insane, folks. That's the level. You got to get so far down the ice, breaking it with that icebreaker, and then launching your helicopter and putting people maybe a couple of miles from a colony and then walking over to it to see these things.
Yeah.
That's how it happens.
Yeah, and finally we got to the edge of the fast ice where it connects with Snow Hill Island, and sure enough, there was what, 7 or 8 or 10 or more emperors right there, and it just blew our minds. We all of a sudden we were straining and looking and trying to find them.
The radio, I got to say, my side of it was hearing you on the radio earlier on, before, we'd succeeded, really. And you said, emperors on the water, behind the boat or something, emperors. And I thought, everybody rushed to go see, these things in water, and you were the only one that saw them.
It was pretty painful. It was
person who saw them.
It was the most bittersweet thing.
A ship full of birders. The only thing at that moment that you want to see is emperor.
190 people on board.
And you have seen it, and they can't.
Yeah, that was really, really bitter. And I had a whole bunch of people standing around me at the moment that I spotted them.
Right.
Yeah, and I yelled it out. At first, what happened was I just saw. I was looking in some ice. There was little bits of ice, and I just saw a couple things. I was like, are those heads poking out there? Those little penguin heads? And I put my bins on them, and I was like, they are. I was like, those are emperor penguin heads. And I was like, no, wait a minute. And then they kind of disappeared. And then all of a sudden 2 came up in beautiful view. And I was like, holy Lord, these really, I was, and I just immediately screamed, Emperor penguin, Emperor penguin. And I had to turn back away from the birds to scream it to make sure everybody heard me over the wind and the engine and everything. And then I called on the radio as well to make sure everybody on the boat knew that there were some emperor penguins back there, because we're thinking, I'm thinking this could be it.
That's it.
We might not see any other ones. And then I turned back, to try to relocate them, and I can't find them.
Yeah.
And I scanned around, and then what I did was I did a quick, with my camera, I kind of covered the area and did a little spray and pray, and later, and I checked the photos pretty quickly, and I was like, "There's nothing here," because I was like, "Man, no one's going to believe me." I know,
maybe.
But I looked later. I don't know if I told you this, but I looked later, and I actually have a photo with an emperor poking its head out of the water.
Wow.
Maybe I'll post it to our Instagram later for folks to see.
A little later, we're all up there on some scopes. I've got a scope, and I see this thing too. But it was like a mile away. And I said, that's a huge penguin. That's it. And I thought, well, how do how do we do this? Because it's so far away that it's not, And at that time, and I'm also, or maybe I've got it wrong. It's like a regular penguin and it's not that far away. Then this ice flow comes in front of this bird, and it has 4 Adelie penguins closer in than it is. And those things are tiny compared to this thing. I was like, that's it. There it is. So I got a lot of people on this, and we got scopes but it was a black, it was a cutout of a penguin that was all black because you couldn't see anything on it. And I remember people were high-fiving because they'd seen an emperor penguin. They knew it was it. Right. So they in a sense, from the listing perspective, they had it, right? Yes. For me, I'm like, but that's not seeing an emperor penguin.
Right. And it was not what you would call a deeply satisfying view. And
minutes later, it's like there was one sleeping on an ice floe on the other side of the boat, where suddenly it was closer, and in the scopes you could see color. And then there were more, you said.
There's some over there. You get an emperor penguin. You get an emperor penguin.
Yeah.
They were everywhere.
It was crazy. And the captain just sort of slowed everything down. He's like, just slow the ship.
It's masterful.
And he stopped right next to this one floe of
pancake ice, yeah.
With 2 emperor adults. Because a lot of people see emperors out and about sometimes on these trips, and they're juveniles. But these were adults with the yellow orangey color and the whole deal. And then I noticed he put his side thrusters on, so he could he moved the boat sideways towards the penguins. The penguins were oblivious.
Yeah, they were just doing their thing.
They're doing the thing. They weren't even and then eventually they start preening. One of them does a little sledding on his
tobogganing
on his belly. There's others in the distance. People had gone to sleep. It was late. It was 10 p.m.
That was the best. Ted Floyd has a photo of a couple of our folks in their bathrobes and pajamas and slippers with their binocular harnesses around their ship white bathrobes, because they were in bed. They were it was what time was it? It was 9:30 or 10 or something. I forget.
Right. Yeah, and the expedition crew all came out. The ship ornithologist said, you have just done one of the most amazing things. You've seen emperor where it's supposed to be, doing what it does, right? On the ice, adults coming back from foraging. It wasn't this lost individual somewhere else a little further north that just looked like out of place. You were in their realm. You got there, and you saw this, and the captain was out there taking photos, the whole thing, and
people were out of their minds.
The bar was full.
The bar was full. My belly was full after I left the bar.
Right. Yeah.
Man, it really was. I mean, the emperors were astounding. The scene was astounding. And meanwhile, there's snow petrels in Antarctic. There was a pair of Antarctic petrels that kept coming in, and they circled the boat. The Antarctic petrels.
You didn't know where to look.
Yeah, it was
And people were hugging.
Yeah.
They were up top hugging.
Yeah.
They were high-fiving. Every time the captain is named for anything, cheers go up because they know that a captain doesn't need to do this. They don't need to go way out of their way, just to make things happen for an expedition, because this is an expedition cruise. It's not
not a luxury cruise.
No luxury cruise. Although we have a piano.
It's true. There's a grand piano right over there.
We got beer.
We're in the observation lounge. It's pretty nice.
You can get Negronis made with
glacial
iceberg.
ice.
So hold on a second. Yeah. Maybe this is like the ultimate cruise, right?
Conceivably, yeah.
And just the idea that the person knew that there were so many people interested, and the captain just went for it. Maybe even had fun going through the ice together.
You could tell he enjoyed it, because I think they got here thinking, this is never possible.
Right.
This is never possible, especially in November. I mean, let's be honest, that the part of the reason we were able to do this, the climate change, you worry that's part of the program here, is that why the reason we were able to get so far south is because of that. But
maybe wind. I don't know.
It could be. I mean,
both.
Yeah, it could be a combo. It's hard to say. But I mean, certainly a week before, they looked at ice charts from 6 days earlier, and it was completely impassable.
Impossible.
Yeah, impassable, impossibly impassable.
Right. Yeah.
So
we waltzed on in. That's what we did. We just and it was like, oh, we can keep on going south. We can keep on going south. It was like, oh, we're almost at Snow Hill, and that. I did not pick. When you asked me, sort of your most wanted bird, emperor penguin. There's a reason. Well, Antarctic petrels are cool, but my thought was the chance of seeing one was so low that I didn't want to build it up.
Yeah.
And if we saw one, it was going to be a crappy view.
Yes.
Of a juvenile, maybe
distant on some little flow of ice.
Like that thing I saw, the first thing I saw, right, like a mile away, where I knew what it was, but oh man, that would have been the worst.
Okay, great, yay, we saw it.
We saw it, sort of,
kind of. Yeah.
So that's what I thought. So I didn't want to.
That was my expectation as well. Yeah. I don't, and nobody could have expected what the encounter. We got
close.
The conditions we encountered
in scopes, sitting there for a long time, full colors. Big, fat penguin bellies.
Super fat, man. Really fat. Full of krill, I guess, huh?
Full of
krill. Super fat.
Fish.
They're more fish eaters, aren't they?
Fish eaters, right?
That's right.
But I just, and nobody can believe it still.
Yeah.
That it happened. It was like magic. And I posted something about it on Facebook.
Yes.
And somebody said they cried.
Yeah.
I was like,
wow.
Well, I mean, I think there's going to be a moment later on, when we contemplate, after it's all the adrenaline's gone, we're going to say whoa, it's a kind of spiritual moment.
Yeah.
This big old penguin.
It was a special thing. Special thing, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have more to discuss about Antarctica. We do want to do this. That it's not often we get to record in person together. It's probably never going to happen again that we get to record together in Antarctica.
Right.
So
next time it could be Alaska.
Yeah, that's true. Alaska could certainly.
Hint.
Yes. Stay tuned. Yes. But yeah, we do. We want to give you guys the rundown as well on some of the other stuff we saw. So we've got at least one more coming. But anything else we should share with folks, Al, before we sign off?
We don't have very good internet. We are catching up on things like the World Cup has started.
Boy, Argentina. Yikes.
I know. I'm worried that if this continues,
we got to fly through Argentina to get home.
Yeah, I mean, I'm worried that that the city of Ushuaia is going to be up in flames, being burnt by
it could be a pretty ugly scene.
The folks, because they better win a game and. Right. Yeah. And but still early.
Still early. But good Lord, what in turn? Yeah. I mean, goodness, amazing.
Yeah.
Crazy news.
Yeah. That's all I got to say. I heard your Eagles won.
The Eagles were back. They resumed their winning ways. They squeaked out a victory. They're 9-1. Still the best record in football.
The fake football. But, yeah.
Here he goes.
Fake football.
Here he goes. Heavens.
That's we should end it there.
Yeah.
That's right. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll be back soon. And thanks, Koa Sport Optics. Thanks, Quark Expeditions. Thanks, everybody that is helping us do what we're doing here. And, we'll be back more soon.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye-bye.